Feels like everybody wants an e-bike now, and the prices of e-bikes are getting cheaper and cheaper. And this bike right here is a prime example of that. This is the Ancheer, I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, electric bike. This one's called the MT3, but if you look up on Amazon, it's just called Ancheer Electric Adult E-Bike for your face. Anyway, these run all in about $500, and that's shipped to your door from Amazon. You got to put it together. And this company reached out to me and said, hey, would you give our bike a review? Because people seem to love it, but what do you think about it? If you haven't seen my other videos about e-bikes, I talk about how all these e-bikes definitely have a little bit of a secret in the industry, and that is these are companies trying to make money, putting all the components together for cheap e-bikes to sell to us. This bike is the epitome of budget e-bike. Very simple controls up at the handlebars. You have a big battery that sticks out here. It's not really hiding anything, but that's kind of the beauty of it. As far as overall build quality, this is as close as you get to a decent Walmart bike that you can find for $250 that you put an e-bike motor and a battery on. If you look at the gearing or the drivetrain, this is one thing I tend to avoid, and that is having two chain rings up front, because on these e-bikes, you really don't need it, especially when you have a throttle, can get the bike started, and then you start pedaling. I feel like in this case, the less gears, the better. But again, this is designed to be very cheap, and sometimes Shimano or other component companies make great deals for these e-bikes by giving them these old school cheap drivetrains. Besides that, there's not much else more to note about the bike. The frame is aluminum, seems like decent quality, the paint job is good, and all the reviews on Amazon are sharing people who have had this bike for 4 or 5 years, ride it all the time, and have had zero issues. So it's time for me to go take it for a spin and let you know what I think. First thing you may have noticed from the video is this thing is a bit on the smaller side. I'm 5'9", and I would say if you're any taller than that, this wouldn't probably be a great bike for you. Probably would start around 5'3". First thing off the bat, after doing some test miles on this bike, this right here, I wish it had a clear sign of how much battery you have left. It just has a couple of marks on the battery symbol itself, and gives you a little bit of range anxiety when it gets down to 0. So overall, this bike runs really nice. The throttle is super convenient because you don't even have to pedal. If I slow down here and then just start and get going, again, no pedaling, and it's just kicking in and cruising. You notice on these e-bikes, once you get to about this 22, 23 mile an hour range, it's gonna stop using the motor as much, and then it will kick in right when you get a little bit below 22 miles an hour and kick back up. A couple tests I like to do is how easily this does the trade-off from your throttle to your pedaling, as well as going uphill, which we're gonna test for right now. So right now I'm pedaling, not in a perfect gear, but the motor's kicking in, and pulls up hill pretty nicely in the 5th gear, which is the highest gear. So if I just stop going, and I'm gonna start going with just the throttle here. So I turn the throttle, and we're cruising, and then I realize, oh, I wanna start pedaling. This is where a lot of these e-bikes struggle. If I start pedaling and let go of the throttle, there's a 2-second delay, and then now it just kicked on again. So again, sometimes on a really nicer e-bikes, when you're throttling to get started, and then as soon as you start pedaling and let go of the throttle, it'll keep going. This one has about a 2-second delay until it keeps going again. Not a big issue, but something to note when you're getting started. These gear shifters aren't ideal. They're pretty cheaply made, but they work fine. And this came out of the box, set up and ready to go. One thing about these bikes is the suspension. This has a suspension fork on the front, but it's very, very budget. Would be good to soften a gravel road, and that's probably about it. Most of the time it's gonna stay totally open, aka you're not gonna use it, and it works great. Last thing to check is the brakes. This thing comes stock with disc brakes, which you always want to bed in. How you do that is you go to a decent speed and then you just pull one brake to try to get the brake pads ready to go, and then you pull the other brake. Overall stopping power isn't great on this thing, but what do you expect on a cheap entry-level bike? Going 20 miles an hour, I'm gonna do a stop as fast as I can. Here we go. Yeah, and I would call that adequate. It works just fine. Overall, zero complaints really. Well, that was fun. So the question stands, should you buy this e-bike? And I mean, if you're just looking for something to casually ride around a couple times a year, go on a little adventure, I think it would be a great fit. If it was me, I would spend a few more dollars and find a bike that has a single chainring up front. I really like the step-through design. I think they look better. I think they're easier to ride. And I feel like for maybe 100 or 200 more dollars, you can find something that maybe is a little cooler, cuter, whatever you're looking for. But if you have this bike or you're thinking about buying it and you just want to save dollars, go for it. I think it'll be a great bike. And if at some point you don't like it or you want to upgrade, this thing is going to hold its value and you'll be able to sell it on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, you name it, probably for 300 bucks, and people would be happy to take it home. All right, that's it. You know what time it is. Don't spend too much time watching videos on the internet, but get out there, ride your bike, and if you can, try to do it every day.